Unfortunately, the RAM situation hasn't changed. You see, the last time I spoke to you guys, I was telling you that anything was to change, I'm definitely going to come here and talk about it. See, I've been monitoring the situation with RAM sticks, DDR4 RAM, DDR5 RAMs, DDR3 RAMs. It's still very much at an all-time high, and the problem still remains. These items are nowhere to be found. See, if it was just the fact that it was expensive, they would have been so difficult, but the problem is that they are expensive, and the very few ones you have available on the website, they are coming all the way from perhaps Taiwan, China, don't know where they are coming from. But the problem is they are taking sometimes 2-3 weeks to be delivered. This is the situation at the moment. See, you might be thinking, it doesn't affect me. What do I have to do with RAM sticks even if they are so expensive? Yes, that is just you talking for yourself, but understand that there are people that depend on these RAM sticks to move their business. If you go to my shop, I have computers for sale, and sometimes I have to upgrade these PCs, like 2 GB of RAM to 64 GB of RAM, depending on what a potential buyer is asking for. And because of that, it has put a very major stress on the used PC space right now. Not only me, it has also put a very major stress on those that depend on RAM sticks to build gaming PCs for their clients. Of course, there are so many people that are into this business. The source for used parts, used processors, used power supplies, used RAMs, with the aim of, building it into a gaming PC, putting a new graphic card or even a used graphic card, as the case may be, and try to resell it. This is something that people do. And because these RAM sticks have made everything kind of, difficult right now, the whole process has become more complicated, because if it's a 2 GB of DDR4 RAM is selling for 200 euros, I'm just talking about just the RAM sticks. Now you have to factor in the cost of you buying the casing, the main board, the SSDs, which, by the way, is even not available at the moment. The last time I did buy a 1 TB of NVMe SSD cost me well over 89 euros. This was something that we used to buy for like 59 euros, 49 euros, depending on the product that you are looking at. But right now, everything has pretty much changed. It has changed. Initially, we thought it had a little bit to do with the Black Friday deals or Cyber Monday deals. But right now, I can tell you for free, that has got absolutely nothing to do with it. There's definitely something going on that at once, every manufacturer tend not to have this product anymore. I feel there's something fishy. It makes no sense to see that, look, Samsung RAMs have become difficult to get. Silicon Power RAMs have become difficult to get. Vengeance, whatever, SK Hynix, everything at once just cut off. And right now, the market is just only looking. Nobody knows where to turn to get these RAMs. And the few ones you have coming on the way from Taiwan, they are taking forever to be delivered. This is the situation we find ourselves. Today is the 4th day of December 2025. How this is going to change in the next 2 weeks, I am still highly in doubt, because anywhere from now, a lot of companies are going to be closing for the year. They are going to be moving their production to next year. So we are going to be seeing a situation where this whole RAM shortage, this whole SSD shortage might even linger to next year. And this is going to upset the prices of hardware, especially the used hardware. We used to pride ourselves that, look, the used market is where to turn to. If you do not have money, you don't have money to splash on buying new stuff, the used market is going to be your best bet. You're going to be able to find decent hardware, decent computers, decent office PCs, laptops, notebooks, iPad, and so on and so forth. But right now, this is not the case, because even the used market now is experiencing this whole traffic. Things are becoming expensive. The major component of these PCs that makes it interesting, nobody wants to buy a 4 GB of DDR3 PC anymore. Nobody wants to buy an 8 GB of DDR4 RAM PC. People are looking at buying this 32 GB, 16 GB at the least, 64 GB of DDR4 RAM PCs. And right now, the prices, everything seems to be turning upside down. And this is not even the end of the story. It's possible that these RAM sticks are going to get more expensive. And I even fear a station where these RAM sticks are going to be off every marketplace. You're not going to be able to find them. And that is going to be a major problem, because the few ones you have left are going to sell for so expensive that it's going to make the whole, market of used PCs to be very, very expensive. So we are still watching right now, given that I am a major player in this industry. I am a major player in trying to, offering, used PCs to the market. This is my own service to the environment, service of trying to take away, e-waste from being left on the dump side. I kind of refurbish them and bring them back to the market. But even that is currently being threatened now because hardwares like RAMs, NVMe SSDs and the like have just from one reason or the other become difficult to find. Of course, I'm following the stories. People are talking about the data centers, the AI data centers. People are talking about the big corporations trying to buy these things off the face of the earth, pending when it will become very, very scarce to get. These are so many theories, but the manufacturers are not coming out to say to us that, look, this is what we are currently passing through. This is why you do not have this product. Let's say in the next 3 weeks, things are going to be better. Nobody is talking about that. We are all right now left in the dark. Hopefully, it is my wish that this situation will change. We can go back to the status quo, how things used to be just a few months ago, talking about October, September, August, when it was so easy to get RAM sticks, it was so easy to get NVMe SSDs. But right now, it is more like, you trying to pass through the eye of a needle. If you want to go online to the big marketplaces, I'm talking about, Amazon, eBay, Hardware Money Shop. If you want to go to the big marketplaces right now to get a RAM sticks, you are going to be shocked. You're going to be surprised at what you're going to be finding. You're going to be finding RAM sticks as expensive as even the PCs. He said the PC into which you're going to put your RAM sticks are not even expensive as the RAM sticks that are being sold to you. This is an abnormal situation, and I feel like something has to change pretty soon. Something has to change pretty fast, because if it remains like this, we're going to be back to the days where a desktop PC, say a small form factor PC, is going to be selling for as much as 600 euros used. I'm talking about new is going to sell for way more, but talking about just a regular desktop PC might sell for as much as 600 euros if the PC were to have a 32 gigabyte or a 64 gigabyte of DDR4 RAM. This is not a story I'm telling you. This is something that might possibly happen if the prices of RAMs would not be checked and brought back to normal. This is definitely going to happen. But then, until then, we're just going to keep our hands crossed. There's pretty much nothing we can do but to wait and see and observe. Try to see what is actually going on, dig deeper, try to find out. Perhaps there's going to be an explanation as to why the prices of these things are just getting out of hand. Like I said, we're going to wait. If you have these things, keep them safely. Do not abuse them. People used to say that, look, I do not need this RAM stick anymore, so I just threw it below my desk or I threw it in my basement. This might be the time for you to go back, pick up your RAM sticks that you've always left lying around, clean them up, and protect them, because you can never tell where this is going to end up. A 4 gigabyte of DDR4 might just sell for 200 euros. A 32 gigabyte module of DDR4 RAMs might end up selling for as much as 300 euros. Please keep your RAM sticks, keep them safely until this situation, as bad as it is, we are still hopeful that it is going to end someday. Until I see you again in the next video. Peace.